From people mysteriously popping up from countries that don't exist, to stepping into the 1700s when Marie Antoinette was still alive. There are a lot of mind-blowing stories from people that claim to have time traveled. Whether you want to believe in it or not, you have to admit to yourself that it's possible, right? If we can make videos that capture moments through energetic vibrating devices and send messages seemingly through air that we call the internet, it's possible that time travel exists, right? It's possible that aliens exist. It's possible that anything is possible. Am I right or am I right or am I right? But before we jump into today's video, I just want to give a shout out to today's video sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. Boy, does this game seem to be blowing up everywhere, and it's probably because it's the first game that really gives you that same high quality gaming experience that you get on a console, but you know, on your phone. Raid Shadow Legends is a game where you will complete dungeon runs, take on raid bosses, explore millions, and I mean millions, of champion combinations, play PvP arena matches, and so much more. Another cool feature of the app is that there are hundreds of artifacts to find and equip yourself with, and there are more than 600 champions that will be given unique skills, so you will be able to build your team, make it the best, and slay at your raid. Personally, I am drawn to all things magical and fantastical, so the second I saw this game, I was stoked to try it. My top 3 favorite bosses would have to be Bommel, the Dreadhorn Soluble. That guy's a boss, literally. So many good personal experiences while playing that boss, so I gotta put him in first. In second, seemingly one of the hardest to push through, we have the Ultra Nightmare Clan boss. And then in third, we have of course the Hydra Clan boss, which arguably I should bump to first because not only was this boss extremely challenging to beat, but it also was extremely enjoyable because the design of these dragons are top notch, like quite visually appealing, which makes for playing this boss extremely enjoyable. Designers don't get enough credit, so shout out to them. This month's raid is running a huge Summer Splash event series where you will be able to get skins for my favorite dwarf, Trunda. Raid is currently running a special Deliana Chase event where you can get Deliana, who is a brand new legendary champion from the High Elves faction. You get this just by logging in, playing Raid for 7 days between now and July 28, and it's as simple as that, and Deliana is yours for free. In case you don't know, Deliana is one of the strongest support champions in the game as a whole, so you don't want to miss out on getting her. She can help carry your team past many of the tougher challenges in the game. Raid is also bringing out 5 new champions as well, so as you can see, there are many things happening in Raid this month. For all the newer players, we have so many gifts in store for you, and once you're in the game, enter promo code MyDeliana and you'll get your hands on everything. You'll get 50 XP brews to instantly get your legendary hero Deliana to max level 50. You'll also get a ton of silver. Click the link in the description box below to get started, or scan the QR code here on the screen, and you'll get unique bosses that are worth $30. Hell yeah, it's the best time to get started. You'll get a free epic champion, Vergus, 200k silver, 1 energy refill, and 1 XP boost, and 1 ancient shard so you can call upon kick-ass champions as soon as you get in the game. Just click the link in the description box below to get all of this and more, and I'll see you in the game. I'm Melissa Malati, your host, and here are your top 10 real time travel stories that will make you a believer. In our number 10 spot, we have the Green People. Apparently in the 12th century, a guy and girl were found in Woolpit, England. They were alone and didn't speak English or any recognizable language for that matter. But that wasn't the strange part. Their skin was green, yes. Is this what that 90s song was based off of? I'm blue, if I were green I would die. Because coincidentally one of them did die. Dun dun dun. They were discovered by a villager, and pretty soon after, the guy passed away. The girl eventually learned English and was able to speak about where she came from. She said she came from a twilight-covered place called St. Martin's Land, and that one day she and her brother were taking care of their father's sheep when they found a cave. They went into the cave, and after walking for a long time, they suddenly found themselves in Woolpit. That's pretty wild. And I bet you they did slip through time from another dimension or maybe even another world because, well, humans aren't green, so that definitely screams aliens to me. Anyone thinking what I'm thinking? This is how the reptilian race started. Got it. In our number 9 spot, we have Marie Antoinette. I can't say her name without trying to pronounce it the French way. Allegedly, in 1901, 2 professors time traveled. These professors were from St. Hugh's College in Oxford, England, and they were on a trip to visit Versailles. Versailles was once home to the famous ruler Marie Antoinette, who is known for telling all her poor subjects to just eat cake. Let them eat cake, she said. Anyways, the professors Anne Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain were walking around the palace when the most unusual thing happened. They were suddenly inches away from Marie Antoinette. Dumbfounded as Marie was beheaded in the 1700s, it's pretty safe to say they did not expect to see Marie and all the other people who were in 1700s clothing who just appeared out of nowhere. Apparently, they all disappeared when a tour guide approached the professors. The 2 women were highly respected and no one believes that they would make up a story like that. So I guess we must conclude that they were telling the truth. Pretty cool. In our number 8 spot, we have the Old Hotel. It was the year 1979, and 4 friends by the names of Jeff, Pauline, Len, and Cynthia were traveling through France when they got tired and decided to stay in a hotel for the night. They found a hotel that was ridiculously cheap in comparison to the rest of the hotels on the street, so it was a no-brainer. The only thing is, the hotel was particularly odd. Not enough for them to go somewhere else, but still it had wooden latches on the doors, no locks, and the windows didn't have glass, they were just thick shutters. What? In the morning, when they were eating breakfast, they noticed that there were armed police officers in old-looking uniforms. So old, they had capes. Without thinking too much into it, they later left and went on with their day. When they were on their return journey, they wanted to stay at the hotel again, except the hotel wasn't there. After doing some research, they discovered later on that those uniforms that the police officers were wearing were actually from 1905. Whoa. So they definitely time traveled without even realizing it. I want to experience this. If I could have this experience though, I would probably want to be transported to the 70s though, disco, peace, hippies. What more do you need? In our number 7 spot, we have John Titor. Obs, I couldn't make a time traveler list without the famous John Titor. John Titor is probably one of the most talked about time travelers around the world, famously known for popping into our time in November of 2000 and chatting up a time travel forum. He claimed to be from the year 2036, and he said that he was on a mission to retrieve an IBM computer from 1975, but wanted to pop into the year 2000 for, personal reasons. And he said that since he was here, he wanted to warn everyone about the crappy future that was up ahead. How nice of him. A quick World War III in 2015 and a full-blown civil war by 2012 in the US. Well, perhaps he was, 5 years or so off, but some people say that because he revealed info that it actually changed the future and therefore the timeline, would be off. Apparently he was so detailed that it was hard not to believe him, but anyways, super interesting to ponder over. Do you think John Titor was real? Let me know in the comment section below. In our number 6 spot, we have Back to the Past. Apparently in 1969, 2 men were driving on a southwestern Louisiana highway when they saw an old car in the distance. The car began to get closer to them and they saw that it looked like it was slowing down and perhaps the driver needed a boost. The men pulled up beside the car and looked in to see a woman and her child looking at them in 1940s attire and looking quite scared and shocked as they looked back at them. They gestured to her to pull over so they could help her, and so they both did. When they got out of the car though and looked back at the woman, the car had vanished. Okay, did they travel to the past or did the woman travel to the future? I don't know. Is this what Back to the Future was based on? I think yes. In our number 5 spot, we have Montauk time travel. According to author Preston Nichols, there is a secret time travel base in Montauk, New York. Preston wrote the book The Montauk Project in the 90s, and he claimed that in the 1980s he reclaimed some memories of working on the project. He says that they experimented on young humans and one human had psychic abilities. He also said they created a time portal to 1943. A portal that specifically opened on the USS Eldridge, the subject of the Philadelphia experiment. Apparently in World War II, the US performed a series of tests to cloak its workers with essentially an invisibility cloak of some sort. Apparently in October they succeeded, but there was a bit of a side effect. The Eldridge crew members went insane after traveling back in time for 10 minutes. Apparently the workers were brainwashed afterwards and their memories were wiped. Wow, well honestly, I maybe believe it. If the army had cell phones in the 60s, most likely the government created a time traveling device in the 80s to go back to the 40s, right? It's possible. In our number 4 spot, we have Jophar Vorin. This story is super interesting, and apparently there is no doubt that he was real, just that he might have been a little crazy. But you can decide. Allegedly in 1980, there was a man by the name of Jophar Vorin who was found in Germany. He apparently spoke little German, which of course made him difficult to understand. He claimed that he was from a place called Lexaria and spoke the languages Lexarian and Abramian. He said he was looking for his long-lost brother, but had to stop here as he was shipwrecked. He claimed that the world was made up of 5 sections: Sakaria, Aflar, Aslar, Oslar, and Euflar. Honestly, if this guy's story isn't real, I'm sad that he didn't become an author because that's some imagination. In our number 3 spot, we have the missing car. Okay, this one either confirms that this guy time traveled or that maybe we should be careful with who we let be doctors? One or the two. Allegedly in 1935, Dr. E.G. Moon was leaving the home of one of his patients in Kent, England, when he noticed that his car was gone. Also, the driveway was a lot rougher than he remembered. All of a sudden, he saw a man wearing several capes, a top hat, and had a large weapon with him. The man seemed to look like he was perhaps from the 19th century. He turned to go back inside the house when he looked back and he noticed that the pavement was normal again and his car was back in the place he had left it. Coming up at our number 2 spot, we have the Bookshop. Apparently in 1996, a police officer and his wife were in Liverpool, England shopping. The police officer's wife went into a bookshop and he decided to go to another store to get a CD. As he began walking to the bookstore, suddenly he noticed that everything became quiet. And then, everything around him looked like it was from the 1950s. He was suddenly standing in the middle of the street and a van honked and swerved around him. He tried to walk back to the bookshop, but it wasn't there. In its place was a woman's store by the name of Cripps. He decided to go inside, but as soon as he did, he was in 1996 again. He later found out that Cripps did exist but closed in the 50s. Cool! This one has me a believer. What about you? In our number 1 spot, of course, we have the man from Taured. Yeah, this story is one of my faves, so I had to make it first. This is another story about a man who is from a place that doesn't seem to exist in our dimension. In 1954, there was a man who was stopped at customs in Tokyo, Japan, as he declared that he was from a country that doesn't exist. He showed his passport and stamps to prove that he was indeed from a country called Taured, and it was located between Spain and France. They asked him if he meant Andorra. He got, angry and said, yes, the location was right, but Taured had existed for at least 1,000 years. He had never heard of Andorra before. He was then put up in a hotel room for the night while the police investigated further. His room was being heavily guarded, and that is why it was a complete shock to find that by the next morning, he had vanished. Dun dun dun. Well, I'm a believer. What about you? Would love to know which story is the most believable in the comment section below. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'm Melissa Melotti, your host. Follow me on Insta and YouTube at Melissa Melotti, and I will see you next time. I hope you have a good day, sir.